This episode of the Kinda Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Sherry's Berries. There's no one like your Valentine. This year, treat them to an unforgettable gift that's as unique as they are. Don't tell her, but I am definitely getting Gia some of these babies. This was written for Tim. I'm not cheating on Jen. Sherry's Berries will deliver your gift fresh and on time, guaranteed or your money back. These berries are decadent, fresh, juicy, sweet, and shareable, just like Gia Harris. Damn it, Tim. And you can choose to get them dipped in white, milk, or dark chocolatey goodness like Gia Harris. What does that mean, Tim? With Valentine's Day right around the corner, there's only one way to get these freshly dipped strawberries from Sherry's Berries starting at $19.99. Go to berries.com. That's berries, BERRIES.com. Click on the microphone in the top right and enter in KF Games. That's berries.com. Use the code KF Games. Help support this show and get some sweet, sweet berries for your sweet, sweet Valentine, like my sweet, sweet baby Gia Harris. God damn it, Tim. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kinda Funny Gamescast, episode 106. It's funny because usually Tim would be here and Colin would be here and we would say the first time ever, the first one, and it's not this time, but I'll explain that in a second. Over here is my very special guest, Pete Hines from Bethesda. Hey, how are you?
Yay for me.
No, don't clap for yourself. That's a bad luck. That's a bad luck. Don't worry. If kids don't know, Pete Hines from Bethesda, you are VP of Marketing and PR over there.
Yeah.
You've been there how long?
A little over 17 years, 17 and change.
Gotcha. You've made a lot of history there.
I have been there a long time for a lot of stuff.
You've made Kinda Funny history as well.
Yeah.
You are a part of the biggest Kinda Funny disaster we've ever had.
It's an honor.
So what happened is yesterday you came in and
just fucking killed it.
You did. No, we did a Gamescast for like an hour and 45 minutes and it was awesome. And it was me and it was Tim and it was Colin and it was you. And we just went and it was, 3 topics that were all about you and Bethesda. And then the end of it was reader mail where they asked you questions as well. And it was awesome and thought provoking and great. And we got all these interesting things. And then we stood up, said goodbye to you, sat back down, did 2 ads. And then we all sat down and me and Tim started talking about what we needed to do next. And we just hear Kevin, fuck. And we're like, what? And he came in, he's like, there's no audio on the ads. And I'm like, oh, we can do those again. He's like, I need to check the Gamescast. And I was like, oh no. And he's like, you check PS I Love You.
And a hush fell over the room.
And it was one of those things. And I've been there and like, I saw Kevin do it and I was like, edit PS I Love You and other shows for us. And so I checked the PS I Love You footage, which was recorded literally minutes before you got here. Yep. It was fine. And then, he looked at the Gamescast and nothing there. And there's one pop and it's like, it's one of those, to be very clear, we usually, whenever something goes wrong, we give Kevin shit or whatever. This was not Kevin's fault.
Nope.
One of our drives just completely died for no reason. Nobody knows why. And you being such a stand-up guy decided to come back today to talk to me.
Here I am.
And so we thought rather than do the same thing, thank you very much, and be awkward and make you do the exact same beats and everything else, we'll just do a one-on-one, which works out in my favor. Because I feel like I first off miss interviews, like how I used to do Up at Noon, even though this is going to be way longer than an Up at Noon. But I also like you a lot. We've struck up the bromance on the internet. Yeah. How's that feel?
Plus, yesterday I accidentally announced the next 3 BGS titles, and that would have been really bad for me.
Sure.
To, completely unscripted to have annoued everything Todd Howard is working on for the next
exactly.
8
Fallout
years.
in New Orleans, it was rough. We didn't know how to deal. We didn't know.
Okay, not funny. Not funny. No. Yeah, but honestly, it's fine. I totally understand, and I was too excited to have a chance to finally be on after. I mean, you and I had talked, and I was like, God, I'm never in San Fran, and now here I am, and I finished all this stuff today. This is great.
So, I mean, what are you in town for right now? Because obviously Bethesda out in Maryland, where you guys usually are.
Right. Well, we announced the Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind today, which is next big chapter for the Elder Scrolls Online, and me having worked on Morrowind, 15 odd years ago, came out to not only talk about this, but also give some context for what was Morrowind? Why did it matter? Why is it cool? Why is this a cool thing to want to play? So I've been doing a lot of stuff for that and talking about some Elder Scrolls Legends stuff, and the deal. I just sort of shoot the shit about whatever.
Yeah.
So
how do you keep doing it? Why do you keep doing it? Like you're talking about, more than 15 years of doing this for Bethesda. You've been in one spot doing all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
What keeps you coming back? Because I don't know how much our audience knows, but like what you're describing, of course, sounds fun. You come out to San Francisco, you meet some people, you talk about this game, but year after year, every 5 years, you have a family, you're leaving everyone to come out here and talk to strangers, people, acquaintances, you know what I mean, do fun things, but you're working, and it is that thing of time differences and flights and this, that, and the other complications. What makes you stay at Bethesda? What makes you stay in this industry? What makes you keep wanting to work on these games?
I don't spend a whole lot of time ever thinking about that. It's a good question, but it's not something, it's just like, this is what I want to do. I feel like this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
I was meant to be at a company like Bethesda. I always, growing up, I was a little kid. I was the smallest kid in my class all the way through grade school. First kid in line for the class pictures when they went size, shortest to tallest. And even through high school, I didn't really hit a growth spurt until I hit college. So I was, I went to a small Catholic high school in North Carolina. I went to a small university, Wake Forest, and I was just kind of used to smaller, more close-knit environments.
Yeah.
And when I started at Bethesda 17 plus years ago, that's what Bethesda was. I mean, the team working on Morrowind at the time was in one hallway. It was probably 12 people that I sat with. The company total was, maybe 25 or plus
How big is it now?
Bethesda. We're probably over 1,500.
Jeez Louise.
And, got offices all over the world and all of that. But it's, a chance to work in an industry that, that means something to me. I've been a gamer all my life, from the early days of playing the Atari 2600 and having a VIC-20, and typing programs in from Run Magazine. There used to be this magazine called Run Magazine, and people would sort of put in code for little programs that you could type in and run. And my brother and I would type in like tiny little games that we could play on my crappy little VIC-20. But it was something I loved and used to lose myself in. And so to be able to work in an industry you care about, to be able to work at a company that, isn't thought of as a big, giant mega corporation. The people that I work with, that I have the privilege to work with and alongside every day are my friends. They are essentially my second family. It's all I've ever known in this industry, and the games that we make are stuff that I genuinely love to be a part of and love to help make a success. And those opportunities don't come along an awful lot in life, and so the chance to keep doing that and every time try and do it better is it's still fun and exciting for me. And I think if ever a day comes that it's not, then maybe I'll go do something else. But for now, they haven't gotten rid of me, and
that's the most impressive thing. Yeah, nothing's. And this is the question I led off with yesterday was, what happened to Bethesda? And I still, especially all the context you just gave, is still my question. What happened with Bethesda and the fact that you go from being this small group to being this huge group? You still have your tight knit, these are my friends, these are my family feel to it, but I keep going back to when I think about Bethesda, because you're this interesting beast in terms of publisher / developer, in the way that I'm celebrating a decade in the industry this year. This is in my decades. Thank you very much. Actually, today is my decade.
Get out of here.
Jeremy Dunham sending me the email saying, "Hey, you're still interested in this job? I'd like to interview you."
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. And when I got there, 2007, I get there right as Fallout 3 starts to become this giant thing, because it's like we get there and there's still Elder Scrolls,
right? Yep.
And stick with me, I'm playing loose, fast and loose, but I mean, like, my second E3 is the Fallout 3 E3 where we talked about yesterday, where Colin Moriarty walks in and you guys think he's punking you,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Because you just about to play a demo where you meet Colin Moriarty in Fallout 3, yeah.
And so even then, I remember being like, oh, cool. Fallout, I've kind of heard about it. It's not my, I wasn't a PC guy. I don't know anything about that really. But then Fallout 3 obviously becomes this thing. And even Elder Scrolls, I had known about it, but high fantasy was never my thing.
Right.
Even then, you guys were, I don't want to say like, you were clearly players in the video game space. You were, but I mean, like, now you're Bethesda. Now you are this thing where you, like I was talking about, your 2015 press conference at E3,
right,
where I really felt that was a statement from you guys of like, hey, everybody, whatever you thought of us before, we've quietly been aligning studios, partnerships, games, franchises, and now we're ready to come out and say, we are a Ubisoft, we are an EA, we are one of these people you need to think about as a brand rather than a collection of random titles. Where does that come from? Where does that start?
Well, first of all, it's funny when you talk about like 2007 and coming off of Oblivion and going into Fallout 3, and I'm sitting here trying to think, and I can't answer it, and it'll take me a while to, because you're like, well, Bethesda wasn't necessarily somebody that was on your radar, and I'm trying to think, like, well, outside of Oblivion and Fallout 3, like, why would you have heard of us? Like, what was the thing that we had shipped?
Yeah.
I'm sure we shipped stuff in between there. Like, I'm positive it did,
Sure.
but nothing jumps to mind. Like, it's just not. It's not we were doing titles like a Sea Dogs or Echelon or. I mean, shit, I used to go to, we were doing IHRA drag racing games for a while, and I went to Indiana once and Michigan once to do some different drag race events. Because we were making a lot of money off of making drag racing games go really fast, straight for a quarter of a mile.
We can render really well for this quarter of a mile.
How you get there is by, first of all, recognizing sort of who you are and what you're about, which is we're Bethesda. We're not ever going to try and build to do 10, 20, 50 games a year. We don't make... We're not focused on the casual market. We're not focused on any number of other things that have kind of come and gone and come into vogue or so forth. We focus on a few small things. We make the kind of stuff that we like to play that is unique or has a different take or an interesting approach to something, whether it's a shooter or an RPG or whatever. And that's what we're going to do and focus on. And how you get to where we were in 15 is by starting in 2008, 2007, and even before then, by continuing to look for people that had similar philosophies and goals in terms of, like, I want to make something, but I don't want it to just be formulaic or to do something that somebody else has done. And you start to, follow and talk with people like Ralph Colantonio at Arcane. You start having conversations with the id guys, or keeping in touch with the guys that became Machine Games, that had done really cool stuff at other publishers, at other developers, and finding people who shared that common belief in terms of, what am I trying to do with this game? I want to do something special. I have a special take at doing something different, and building that capacity. It was never our intention to say we need to buy X number of studios in the next few years. It was, let's just find cool people to work with. In the case of Arcane, we finally sort of got on their radar where they didn't have a project they were moving on to next, and we started working with them on what became the original Dishonored. But we worked with them for a while before we ever had the conversation about, hey, like, maybe it makes sense for you to be internal. Like, is that something you guys would be interested in? Yeah, sure. And it just worked out that way. Same thing with id. Like, that conversation started like, we love what you guys do, and we'd like to talk to you about, can we work together? There's a possibility of something we could do, and that conversation evolved in a similar way.
So internally, as this is happening, I feel like, and maybe it's just the jaded guy inside of me in the video game industry and how corporations work and all this shit. Mm-hmm. Is there a company meeting where you're talking about, our goals are to become this thing and do this thing, or is it so natural that one day you're in a meeting and you look back and you're like, well, we are working with id and we have Arcane and is it just we want to get a menagerie of awesome people together, or was it you wanted to hit these different beats and go out and move this way?
It was honestly more about, like, what do we want to be working on next, and who do we want to be working on it with, and trying to constantly reevaluate and examine, like, what are our options, what are our possibilities? Because you talk to a lot of people all the time, but sometimes you find the right studio you want to work with and a cool idea or a notion of what you might want to do. But look, a lot of these folks are indie developers, and the way that they work or are structured, like, they don't just have the flexibility to say, like, we finished that thing, we're going to take a little while to kind of think about what we want to do next. Like, they got bills to pay, and some of them are literally living hand to mouth, even the really successful ones, because that's just how indie development worked. And so you're trying to find the right opportunities and the right times to bring people on board to do things that you think are cool or interesting or different, and figure out, like, okay, well, how long is that gonna take? Because what you don't want is, all right, well, we accidentally released 6 titles in 2010, and then we got nothing in 11 and nothing in 12 because everybody was lined up for 1 year. Like, that's not good either. So it's about timing and figuring out how to pace it out and find the right fits. And we did hit a stride there. We went id, and then I don't remember what the order of the dominoes was, but Arcane, Machine Games, and Tango kind of came in close succession. But all of those were sort of individual, unique situations based on conversations and what was going on. It wasn't like somebody went to Todd Vaughn, our VP of development, and was like, look, go find us 3 studios to buy, this year, go.
Yeah.
It was just, who are we going to work with? He's like, well, Shinji is, looking to do survival horror. He's got this studio. We should talk to them. And these guys at Starbreeze all left, and there's a core of them that, started Machine Games, and they're really interested in doing Wolf. Like, each of those things kind of on their own sounded like good opportunities and sort of got us to where we were in 2015 and where we are today.
And I mean, well, that's the thing, I talked about it yesterday, but I think it was my own, not naivete, but I mean, I was wrong in the way when I remember watching the 2015 press conference and we did it. It was awesome. We're like, oh, and Fallout looks great, but they had all this other stuff. And it's like, this was awesome. They won't do it again next year because this is clearly what they were. They had this roster ready to go of these amazing games. And that's all well and good. They're not a player like that.
Right.
And then next year you guys, no, here's your invitation to the 2016 E3. You shove it. And like, oh, damn. All right. And I think it really was that thing. You did that. And then you put out 2016, a banner year for you guys. You know what I mean? Doom. And then, Doom coming out and then being lauded as just like, oh my God, what a revival. It feels so different. It's so beautiful. It's so smooth. And then Dishonored 2 coming out and being that game that wins Game of the Year. And we talked about this yesterday. We'll get to it again. Being this hardcore fan base around it where you either get it and you love it or you don't and who cares? So, you know what I mean? Like, you guys are moving at a different clip now, I think. And it's interesting. I knowing you and having followed you and having yesterday's conversation, now today's conversation, I guess it wasn't a change in philosophy. It's just the way it became.
No, it really wasn't. It was just, I've said before, people ask me like, well, what do you want the next year to look like for Bethesda? Or like, what do you want to be doing personally in 5 years? And my answer is always, I just want to do a better version of the thing that we already did. Like, there's going to be a new game coming along, and like, how do we take all the stuff that we learned from the last game that we made, whether it's how we talk about it, or when we talk about it, or how we interact with the developer and go through the process. We talked about this yesterday about like the challenge of just working with somebody you've never shipped a game with and figuring out how to work together to make sure you're each kind of getting what you need out of the partnership and shipping something and then saying like, okay, we learned a lot. Like, let's do that again, only better. Like there's no end to that path. Nobody has got it perfect because every game has its own challenges. And so just that where we are now is just a continued progression. What do I want 2017 to look like? I want to execute even better on the stuff that we have to execute on. We've got Prey, we got Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind that we just announced. We got a few other things going on that we haven't announced. We've got Quake Champions working. We got Elder Scrolls Legends, going to be coming out of beta and coming out to a bunch of other platforms. Like, I just want to do each of those the justice they deserve from my team's standpoint of talking about them and getting the word out there and hopefully reaching an audience that says, that's pretty cool. I like what that's doing. Like, I want to try it. I want to play it, or you should try it and play it, or whatever.
Did you know when you started in on all this that every game was going to be different like that? Like, did you, or was that a harsh reality to wake up to, the fact of like, oh, well, we did this game that way, so I can apply that. Oh, no, I can't. Okay, well, I learned, no, I can't do that on this one. Every project. For
me, it was a pretty easy lesson to learn early on because so much of the stuff that I was working on was this like, I think we may have talked about this before, but like my first press tour was just this dog's breakfast of video games. Like, we had just shipped PBA Bowling right before I started at Bethesda in 1999. Who can forget? We were working on IHRA Drag Racing, Skip Barber Racing. Skip Barber is a racing school, like performance cars.
Gotcha.
My brother's actually been through the Skip Barber Racing School.
Was he in the game?
He was not, which never shipped. So nobody was technically in that game. We were working on Sea Dogs, which was like a naval-based RPG based out of Russia. We were working on Echelon, which was like a futuristic fighter thing. Like, it was just all over the place, and there really wasn't anything like, oh, we could just kind of formulate, like, what are you going to take from IHRA Drag Racing that applies at all to Sea Dogs? Like, it was just this, we were kind of all over the place in the kinds of stuff we were trying and doing. So no, I kind of knew early on, like, yeah, this is going to be like starting all over from scratch every single time, every single game, just because ultimately that's mostly what it felt like. You shift from a naval-based RPG to IHRA Drag Racing 2, like,
a lot of milestones and
all
ideas.
Over again. Yeah.
So, we talked about all these games you're putting out that I think are extraordinary. You know what I mean? Whether it be Fallout, whether it be Dishonored, whether it be Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. you have this reputation right now for putting out these amazing games. Everybody loves Bethesda. You guys fire on all cylinders. But I think that becomes you cull the herd. You guys have been known to get away and pray to, right? We're not going to do this game anymore. We're going to get away. For you, at what point in development do you know, oh my God, we're on to something crazy good like Doom, or do you know like, okay, something's really wrong and we have to start thinking about cutting Prey 2? And those are just examples.
Sure. It's different for every game. Obviously, there's milestones all along the way that are kind of check-ins in terms of like, are we developing all the art assets we need and getting, the milestones checked off in terms of like where we need our AI to be or our graphics rendering or whatever. But there are larger checkpoints along the way where you expect to get your first hands-on or something that's a chunk that's a representative 4 to 5 hours of the game that's really kind of showing you. It may not all be pretty and beautiful, but it's a representative slice of like, this is what the game is going to be like. Those come in different points for different games. And sometimes you reach a point and you actually haven't checked all the boxes, but really for certain, or just sometimes it's a feeling like, okay, we've got a few issues, but these issues are really solvable and easy. Like, I remember for a long time, Wolfenstein: The New Order was, in my opinion, and a number of folks in my group and throughout the company, was way too hard. You just died all the time, way too easy, which at a certain point you could raise a flag and be like, this is going to be a real problem. But talking to Todd Vaughn, our VP of development, he has a wonderful sense for like, what are the solutions to the problem? And he's like, yeah, in this case, like the actual problem you're feeling is we're not dropping enough ammo. That's why you keep dying, because you keep running out of ammo for all these different weapons, and you end up like just shooting this one crappy one that you're not very good at, and it doesn't do much damage. Like, we just need to drop more ammo; it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like that's something
a solvable problem.
Another one of like playing a game in 2 hours and like, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean it's not fun? Like, what do you mean? What do I mean? I'm not having any fun. I just spent 2 hours on something and at no point was it fun. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. Like, that's well, how do we solve that? Like, that's a much tougher question to answer. And so, to your question, there certainly with projects, Doom 4, we called it at a certain point and said it looks beautiful, it runs great, it is actually fun, it's just not Doom. And we need, if this is going to succeed, we're going to reboot this thing and kind of bring it back into, this modern era. It's got to be an authentic Doom game and not something that's got the Doom name but feels more like Battlefield or Call of Duty or whatever. And we made that call and at a point where you could get a good idea of what the game was and appreciate, like, there's nothing we're going to do to this based on what we have that's going to get it there. We gotta stop and throw all of this out and retool. And in the case of something else, you just reach a point where you hit those problems that, like, I don't see a path how we're going to get there. You might have a schedule that says, well, this is how we get to the end of the game, but like checking off all of the things on the milestone list is not the goal of game development, right? The goal of game development is when we're done, we have something really fun and interesting and unique that people are going to want to play and enjoy. And when they do play it, they're like, wow, this is really cool. You should play it. You should try it. Dishonored 2, Doom, those games hit that bar, reach that goal. Just finishing the game is not good enough. And our belief has always been, kind of going back to our core philosophy, that ultimately the game is the thing. And it's a really hard decision to cancel a game or to start over or to delay a product. All of those things we take really seriously because, we are running a company that pays salaries to people. And like the only way we do that is if we make money. So delaying stuff has real consequences, but you have to do what's in the best interest, which is long-term. The thing that we make has to really resonate with the audience that it's intended for, or like we're screwed. Doesn't matter how many ad dollars you spend. It doesn't matter how many people, you get to stream the game. Like, it's just going to die before you ever get started. And so you don't always enjoy making those decisions, but ultimately, like, if we're going to succeed and we're going to continue to go forward, you've got to be able to step back and say, like, are we actually going to get to where we intend to, or has this all been for naught? And sometimes, you end up waving goodbye to millions and millions of dollars you spent over years to make a thing and just say, look, all we're looking at is millions more that we're going to put into something that we have no real path to success.
I know you can only talk about what you've been through with Bethesda, but do you see that policy becoming more standard in the video game industry at large? Because we always talk about it, and me in particular, when I bring up this argument, is the fact that when I first started, I mean, there was that middling, I'm a B tier, A tier, I'm a THQ game, right? But it's the same thing you just talked about, that you guys are cutting and running on games because it's not up to our standards, we don't want it, right? And that's why when people see Bethesda on the box, that means something. Whereas I can sit there and say, you're licensed mid-tier, I'm a weird racing game that doesn't need to exist, I'm Crush Hour, is a THQ game, and THQ isn't around anymore.
Right.
And then earlier we had Shadow of the Colossus up, which makes you think Last Guardian, and you saw Sony of that age, the PS2 to PS3, like, take all the time you need. And then now with PlayStation 4, you see them cutting first-party studios and saying we don't want this, and not, you know what I mean? Like they seem more proactive as somebody who watches them on the industry.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, the truth of the answer is what you said, which is I don't really know. I'm sort of at best a casual observer, and I tend to pay a lot more attention and focus a lot more on what we're doing and what my team is doing and what our devs are doing than I really focus on external forces, because there's any number of cases in the past where what everybody else was doing like was irrelevant because it was a terrible fit for us. Facebook gaming became a massive thing, and everybody was grabbing studios and throwing games out because that was the big thing. Like, well, if I just looked at what everybody else was doing, like, well, we would have gone running down that path too.
Sure.
It's not like it's up to me, but if
you're there in your hat telling everybody what to do,
right.
Todd Howard's like, yes, sir. Yeah. Right, I'll get right to programming.
In no universe has that ever happened. But we didn't go running after that because we were focused on like, okay, that's nice, but that's not what we do. And that when everybody went crazy with like handheld, casual market games for DS and whatever else, like we didn't go running after that either, because that's just okay. I mean, maybe that works for them. That's not what we do. The first really big entry that we had into the mobile space was Fallout Shelter,
which was quite the big entry.
Was a big entry, but also like you could look at that and say like, does that feel like a Bethesda game? And I think most folks would pretty quickly say, it felt true to Fallout. It was interesting. It did things differently as it related to in-app purchases or how much it did or didn't feel like it was trying to reach for your wallet. It was pretty casual with that, but it fit the tone and vibe of Fallout. It was fun and tactile and just kind of struck a chord. Like that's the kind of stuff where we see those opportunities, those ideas come up, and Todd's like, I got this idea, I want to make a game like this, and everybody's like, yeah, like that seems awesome. I would totally play that. And those are the kinds of things that we want to back, things that the devs believe in and that feel like they come from our DNA of having something special to bring to the table that maybe not everybody else is doing. And the extent to which that's happening around the industry is not really my thing. But certainly, even just in the last few weeks, we've seen like this being canceled or like this project isn't going to happen. Like I do think that folks are getting more and more discerning about how long they're going to run this along before they make a decision. Because in the past, it's probably true that in most cases it was just, even if it wasn't good, we're going to see it through the end and we'll make something on it at the back end. But I just don't think that's the case anymore. Not with the number of releases, all of the indie stuff that's out there. Like people have too many choices, all the free-to-play stuff. Like,
exactly. You've
got to compete with time for a product that somebody doesn't even have to spend any money on to download and play for hundreds of hours. Like that's, that is a challenge. You really have to step up your game.
Do you think it's because you're starting to see, as the industry ages, as we all mature, somebody catching up where it's the art catching up to the business side of it? Because the business side of it before it was like, Finding Dory's huge, or Dora the Explorer is who I'm thinking of, but Finding Dory would work too. Because Disney's whole portfolio, Marvel's, what Marvel did with comic. Sure, here you go, Activision, put out a Spider-Man game every 9 months. We don't give a flying fuck if it's good or bad. You know what I mean? Like that was the thing. Whereas now you see Marvel reaching out and being like, all right, or Disney reaching out and being like, all right, cool. We have a Marvel video game guy, Bill, in charge. He will then tell you what's doing. We're going to partner with the best people. We're going to put money behind it. Some will be exclusive, some won't. Like, is it that the people who have been in the industry the longest are catching up and becoming the businessmen?
I'm not sure, only because the phenomenon that you're talking about recently, I remember in the mid to late 90s when before I even got to Bethesda, I worked on the side part-time as a game reviewer and a writer for a small gaming site. And I remember going to E3 and seeing it was funny, like, I must have been the grim reaper of game journalists, because all the companies that I was assigned to, they were just going out of business left and right. Fox Interactive and all of these folks who were doing the same kinds of stuff. Video games were like, oh, like everybody run in, like this is where all the money is, and just anybody can put up
stake your claim,
that's
put out
right,
some stuff,
and put out
it'll
a
be
stuff,
great.
and people will
Get some
buy
licenses.
it. And the exact same thing happened that you're talking about.
Yeah.
We just saw Disney essentially leave the business in terms of formally publishing their own stuff. Now they're obviously still doing some smaller things here and there, but certainly not what they were doing before, like shutting down Disney Infinity. All of that stuff I remember in 1996, 97, 98, where all of these companies, GT Interactive and Fox and all of these other folks had stuff, and it just, the next day they just weren't there. They were all gone. So I do think it kind of comes and goes in cycles. Certainly today, compared to 97, 98, is apples and oranges. There's so much more going on. And again, going to the indie stuff, like an avenue like Steam means that anybody can put out a game and doesn't need a publisher. You can go direct to the consumer. I think I saw that last year more games were published on Steam last year than they were in all the previous years combined.
Wow.
Like, well, that's the environment that you're shipping a game in. And, to the consumer, they don't necessarily care like where the game comes from if it strikes a chord and resonates with them. I mean, I'd like to think, to your point, that like, yes, it means something to somebody that we're making Dishonored 2, that hopefully that says something about, we're working with Arcane and we're doing something that's interesting and unique and is really going to push things. But I'm trying to get you to part with your money. You're going to decide ultimately whether that's a thing you want to do, or you want to go over here and try, a couple of indie things and this free-to-play thing and this other. Like, you've got a lot of choices now how you want to spend your time and money.
And so, using that example of a Dishonored 2, this is something I asked you yesterday, so bear with me. But I'll put a new spin on it for you.
Okay.
Which maybe I will, maybe
it's
I won't.
It's not like people don't ask me the same question over and over.
But we had a really good conversation, and you kept saying that was a good question. And I was like, we did it. We did have some good questions. No, the question was yesterday that I think stands is, what is success to you guys, and how do you set expectations? Because like I was saying yesterday, Dishonored 2 drops, and I thought that was an interesting sequel to make. Because I remember when Dishonored came, people loved it. Don't get me wrong. It had an audience, but it had that audience where it had the Twitter audience that I follow. It had like your Mitch Dyers, and it had your video game critics really liked this game, but we knew it didn't set the world on fire in terms of like units sold, fair. Right? Yeah. Like it has an audience. People love it. It reminds me a lot of like Amir's Edge, right? Where like, sure, that game people enjoy. All right, cool. And there's like a sect that think it's amazing. Okay, great. Dishonored 2 comes around, and again, IGN's Game of the Year. People are giving it crazy scores. It's awesome, but it seems like it doesn't set the world on fire again. Sales. Were you guys expecting that? Is that a successful game to you because it spoke to the Dishonored audience and it got these scores that you guys like, or is it like we expected more out of that? We not that we just put a 2 at the title, but similar to how people always talk about Uncharted 2 and the PlayStation ecosystem, of where Uncharted 1 you played because you were a PlayStation fan and you were there, and then everyone talked about it to the point that when Uncharted 2 came, there were millions more PS3s on the streets, so people were like, oh, I've heard about this game, sure, and then they dropped and it went off.
I mean, the answer to your question is we look for success to come in a variety of forms. Obviously, those come from different places. So the developers can spend all of their time making and developing the best game possible, and while we involve them in sales and marketing and promotion so that they're vested in and a part of that and can help guide it and make sure what we're doing is true to the game and the game experience, they don't really have much, if any, influence over how many copies ship or how many sell or any of that stuff. So, you don't want your devs focused too much on those things because it's not really in their control. Just like you want sales and marketing to be bought into the vision that the devs have and be able to take it and explain it to their audience, but it's not my team or sales or anybody else's job to make the game more fun or to make this level more interesting or whatever. Like, that's not why we hired you, and that's not why we hired them. So you want across all of your different disciplines for people to have success and in the areas that matter to them. You want Editor's Choice Awards and Game of the Year nominations and awards, and to be well thought of, and for the fans, who share their opinion and share their voice to say, this is really good. It was worth my time. It was worth my money. I recommend it to others. I give it this good score wherever on Steam, on Metacritic, whatever. You certainly want that. You want the sales. You want it to be a commercial viable success to sell copies, because we are a business. We're not the National Endowment for the Arts, right? We don't have a giant bucket of money that we, sort of grab and hand to a developer and say, okay, you take this off and go make your piece of art. And whenever you're done, sweet, and we'll sell it. And if you need more money from the bucket, just let us know.
It's always here. Come
we
get
just
it.
keep getting the bucket refilled. We'll be fine. No, we're a business, and ultimately we are, even though we're privately held, in the business of making money. So we don't want to live hand to mouth either. I have lots of people now who work in my group all over the world. I want those people to feel secure in what they are doing and who they work for, because we're doing a good job of making money and selling the things that we do. The answer to your question is, do I think Dishonored 2 is a success? For what it was, certainly I think it was a success for the reasons you mentioned, which is it's a great game that kind of moves the franchise forward and brings something new to the genre. Some of the things we did, I think that crack in the slab mission that's later on in the game is one of the more amazing things I've ever seen, and really different from anything else I've seen, just technologically. Having this thing where you're looking into the past and then everything else rendering around you is in the present. It's crazy how they pulled that off. From a sales standpoint, there's never been a game where I said we sold enough, we should really stop. Could we not sell anymore?
Stop printing Fallout 4.
Seriously, you're embarrassing me. Skyrim, there was no pause where it was guys, really, it's too much. Just keep it. We'll put it back on sale later. You always want to sell. You always want to sell more. And sometimes what we see is there are games that have very different sales curves in terms of what the tail looks like. And we live in a interesting time where, because of different things that we do, like QuakeCon and other sales, that we can bring things back that have been out for a while. And it's amazing the flood of people that will come in to buy something that that thing has been out for 2 years. Why now did you decide it was worth $30? Because it was $30 last year and it was $30 6 months ago, but today for some reason you're I gotta have that for $30. So you do get longer tails, and I think we try and take a wider vision. But every game has got to be its own thing. You can't say, look, everything has to be Skyrim or Fallout 4 or it's an abject failure. You look at what are the costs to develop it, and what are you going to spend to promote it and get the word out there, and what do you think you should do for that kind of thing. You can't take very disparate games and say, oh, well, they'll all achieve the same thing. Every studio is different. Every project is different. And I think we try as best we can to be realistic about what we're making and the audience it's for and what we expect success to be.
Loaded question incoming.
Okay.
Do you think, or does Bethesda, however you want to phrase the question, was Fallout 4 a success?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next.
No, because I was talking about it, right? It was a question I asked you yesterday in not the same fashion. But the fact of the matter was, to be, transparent. P.S. I Love You went live today, and it's about open worlds. And a kid wrote in. Kid wrote in, and he was like, so what's the deal with Fallout 4? Because you guys never talk about it that much. I know Greg Platt and Big Colin, did you ever finish the story? Blah, blah. And it was that conversation that we had yesterday, both on and off camera, just Fallout 4 I loved, obviously. I platinumed it, right? But it didn't resonate with me the way Fallout 3 did, and I feel like that's a line across the industry in a way where people revere Fallout 3. In Fallout 4, we all played and we're like, oh, it's more Fallout, great. But that was the thing, right? That was the response. It was more Fallout, awesome. And so you didn't see people falling all over themselves to give you Game of the Year awards. You won them, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the game. It sounds like I fucking hated the game.
No, but I think
in reality, I loved it.
The point you were making was when Fallout 3 showed up, it was for us making Fallout games, it was our first stab at it. There had been Fallout games, and 1 and 2, and they're two of the greatest games ever made, but they weren't made by us. And Fallout 3 was the first one that we made that says this is how we think about Fallout and what a Fallout game is for us. And it was really well received and kind of sent ripples in a way through what people expected and the tone and the vibe and all of that stuff. And when you do another one, well, it's not it's not the first one again.
Yeah.
To your point, like there's going to be some commonalities. Like you can't just react to VATS in Fallout 4 the way that you did in Fallout 3, because in Fallout 3 you saw it for the very first time. And you're like, shit, this is a really cool, interesting way to kind of bring that targeting different body parts, but to a first-person shooter in a way I understand, and there's numbers and role-playing, right? You just like, well, how is that supposed to have the same impact in Fallout 4? Like it evolved and it was a little different, but you still knew what it was. Like it wasn't like it shocked you or caught you off guard. So I do think there's something to that. But to answer your question, Fallout 4 is got to be the most successful game we've ever launched in our company's history, more than Skyrim in terms of like what we did. But part of it is just that phenomenon of, well, you have some level of experience and interaction with the game already. And so, I feel the same way about if you played Uncharted 4 and that was your first game, I think you have a very different reaction to what that game is than if, like me, you played 1, 2, and 3, because Uncharted 4 is more of 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Like, ending is one of my favorite endings in a game ever. It was mind-blowingly good, but like
it means something because you have all that history.
I went out of order. So my first Uncharted was Uncharted 2, and then I went back to 1 and then played 3. But my first interaction with Uncharted 2 and seeing those cutscenes was transcendent. Like I had never played a game where I cared so much about the cutscenes, and my wife would stop whatever she was doing because she wanted to watch and see the story. And I wasn't allowed to play the game when she wasn't around because she wanted to see what was happening, how the story was progressing. Like if I had played 1, my reaction to that isn't the same because I would have had exposure to this is how these guys tell story and cutscenes and character, and it's really good. I think that's true for a lot of stuff. Fallout 4 is in that respect no different.
So you're not going to answer. Well, you'll answer. Well, I'm going to get to that in a second too. Hold on. But do you think then for the next Fallout you guys make, do you think it'll be like, is there in the studio, is there an idea of like, we got to be so different next time, we have to go in a different direction? Or is it, we had a lot of great stuff and we just need to iterate and change and make it still feel like what we think our Fallout is? If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Go
whether it's Fallout or Elder Scrolls or whatever it is they're going to do next, I think their mantra is always like, we really got to step up our game. Because in the case of Bethesda Game Studios, they have had, if it's not unique, it's certainly historic level of success with their titles. When you look at Oblivion, Fallout 3, Skyrim, Fallout 4, that is 4 consensus game of the years, and it's impossible not to feel the pressure of expectations in that situation 100%. Where like whatever that is the next thing that they announce, there is a level of expectation of that shit better be really good. Like it better blow my mind and be awesome in terms of fun and what you're bringing to the table. Like I do think on some level they feel that, but I think a lot of that feeling comes from internal. Like you don't get to that level of success without having a lot of drive yourself to say, I want to make something awesome and cool and different. So the answer to your question is, I think yes. I mean, it's not a conversation when I like run across people in the hallway like, hey, Chappie, do you feel pressure to like, no, you
we need to blow it up?
Yeah.
What do we need to do?
Yeah. So but I've known those folks and worked with them and alongside them enough to know that there is a lot to that you don't achieve that level of success without having some amount of drive and holding yourself to a standard internally. And honestly, one of the things that I think makes Todd special as a game developer is he sets and pushes that team to a really high bar. He gets a lot of attention and praise, as he should, as the head of that studio, because he's the head of that studio.
Yeah.
But those games don't happen without a huge team of people, which is kind of always his point. Like the focus isn't supposed to be on me, it's supposed to be on the team. But I think what he does for that team is he sets a pace and a bar in terms of this is where we're going to go and how we're going to push ourselves. I'll generalize conversations I have had with him in the past, which is, I do think he feels some amount of responsibility, pressure, whatever you want to call it, to say the next thing that we do has really got to throw the rock forward and to really move things, not just a little bit, but big leaps.
How tough is that for him, and then for all your teams to an extent, to have that fans feel like they own these games. And that's the thing where even before the big press conference in 2015, which I feel for me cements Bethesda as like, oh, these guys are a pillar in a way I don't think I was thinking of them before. What always stands out to me is that when I'd go to a PAX, whatever, I'd go walk by and do my tours when I still had IGN on my little notepad seeing all these games. And the Bethesda booth in store always had the line out where you guys were selling Vault 101 hoodies or shirts this the way. And you had an audience that was so attached to it. And now it's that same thing where Fallout 3 comes out, nobody knows what to expect. It sets the standard, everybody is in love with it. And then Fallout 4 comes out and some people love it, some people aren't. Like I think about like how much I enjoyed it and how this morning on Reddit, I used the Fallout subreddit, and a guy had put up a post that was like, I just hope Fallout 5 isn't like this. And it was a screenshot from Fallout 3, and it was you had to pick your response to talk to this person, and it was the very straightforward, I've been hurt. It was the sarcastic, like I need fucking help, and then it was something else, and then it was a thing from Fallout 4 where it was just the buttons, and it was like unsure, blah 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 blah, and like you don't understand where like you didn't spell out the lines. And for me personally, that was one of my favorite things about Fallout 4 is that I'm just gonna select the tone of what I want to say, and then I get to truly do a conversation in a cutscene. But this person didn't like it. It's like, well, fuck, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. How do you do this?
Well, the way you do it is there's no universe in which you can make video game and take into account everybody's opinion. It is physically impossible. It is physically impossible to market or sell a game. It is impossible to make it. It is impossible to please everybody. Because I guarantee you there's people out there who are like, you should shoot yourself in the head and never make games again because what you do is awful and I hate it. I mean, I've read
the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've read the reviews, like play this game for 100 hours and it's literally unplayable. And it wasn't. They weren't being funny or sarcastic. Yeah. Like okay, well, that guy I'm never pleasing. Like what everybody is looking for is going to vary. The best that you can do is take a look at how people reacted. Todd has a saying. I hope he doesn't kill me for sort of sharing all of his little secrets, but I do think he's incredibly insightful and does have sort of really good ideas and notions. And his thing is always, don't listen to their solutions, listen to their problems, right? So in the case that you're talking about, it's not like, I think it should be like this. Like, yeah, everybody's got an idea for a video game. Everybody's got an idea for a feature. What we really need to be focused on, what is the thing that they're trying to communicate in terms of this is something I didn't like or something I wish was different or something I wish I could do that I couldn't or whatever it is. Mods are a great way to do that, not to look at like somebody made this specific thing, but it's more like what are they trying to add to the game? What kind of experiences are they looking for that they aren't getting? And I think that was a big part of where, the ability to build your own settlements and to do all of that was like, yeah, people want to they don't just want a house, like they want their house. They want to be able to this is what I want it to look like. And I want to put turrets here and I want this kind of furniture or this kind of stuff on the wall. It's like you look at how people react to a thing that you made and then try and figure out sort of in alongside of your own ideas and notions about what you want to do, how do we go forward from here to not make everybody happy or give everybody a dialogue system that everybody's going to like? Because guess what? That solution doesn't exist. It's not out there. It's not possible. Something that somebody loves is something that somebody else hates or wishes with different. That doesn't mean you can't try and be better, but you're just not going to please everybody. So figure out how you want to evolve thing and take into account what are the things that people are looking for more of or less of, or the problems they want you to solve. And then let's see if we can come up with ways to do that in a way that we believe in and that we think will work and kind of, do what I said, throw the rock forward, move things ahead.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna try to remember that. Look at the problem, not the solution.
Yeah,
because even if you boil down, we live in a 140 character world, right?
Yep.
Kids will still tweet me now and talk because when it got down to my final trophy for the platinum in Fallout 4 was the make everybody happy in the settlement, right?
This is really hard to do.
Exactly, because it's at the time none of us knew.
Send everybody away.
I'm putting 4,000 rugs on the ground and statues everywhere.
Send everybody away and just distill it down to exactly what you have.
Exactly. But that for me becomes the problem of it turned on me of I hate I hate the building, I hate doing this and blah blah. And so for me, right, if you hear that, my solution is cut it, go back to just being Fallout. But then to think about it, what were my real problems? Well, I didn't like how my walls didn't line up perfectly.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, that's a solution you could fix. I'm like, fuck, that actually, you start thinking about it in a different way and that would turn it around. Huh, that's good. So stick with me on this one. I want to know why you're the way you are and why you're who you are and why I think you're kind of a unicorn in the industry. And then going away from that for a second.
Who's you? Like, are you talking about me or
you?
Bethesda?
Okay. Oh, you personally.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's also, I think, part of the Bethesda character, maybe. And then I'm going to ask you, do you remember our first interaction on Twitter?
Okay, which one do you want me to answer first?
The interaction one.
No.
Okay. Colin and I on Beyond early on were talking shit about Skyrim and how it wasn't running on PS3 and how like it was crashing all this stuff. And this is it was already, we knew the problem was out. People knew about the thing, right? And you know, Megan Sullivan at IGN was troubleshooting, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And we were doing the thing of like,
by the way, this is when you're still at IGN?
Correct. Yeah. And so we're like, this is like as it's happening. So this is when did Skyrim on PS3 was?
Was it 11? Yeah. So this was probably like December.
Exactly that. Or, right after the new year or something. And we're talking about it, and a fan tweeted you saying, hey, the guys on Beyond have a question about why this isn't running. And you responded back to him. He's like, I've tried to talk to IGN. I'm not doing it again. And I was like, hey, I haven't talked to you, and I'm sorry. And you were just like, I've tried to talk, and I was like, fuck, like this guy's calling it like he sees it in public. And even to this day now, the way you tweet and the way you communicate and the way you talk on this podcast, you don't talk like you are the vice president of marketing and PR. You talk like you are in an indie studio and you don't have to answer to anybody and everything else. Cause like a great example, and I think I didn't see Colin's final script, but his Colin was right. That'll be live by the time you see this, audience, is about, you know, getting data and hard facts and hard opinions from big companies about video games and how the political climate and all this stuff. And he's firing out these emails and not getting responses. You know what I mean? That's when you start asking real questions, quote unquote, when there is a definitive answer about something, usually you don't see or hear from anybody, right? But for you are out there on the front lines tweeting and talking all the time and answering fans and answering PR people and press people and all. And it's just, why do you think you're able to do that? Why are you like that and other people can't be? Why can you be so opinionated? Whereas like if you were to talk, like, I guess like think about like in terms of presence, in terms of talking for a company, you are equivalent to Shuhei Yoshida for PlayStation. Because Shu will respond and talk, and he'll take photos at a Nintendo event, and everybody's like, okay, cool. You'll go out and tweet about what you're playing, and it's not a Bethesda game, and who cares? But everybody else, like the PR people for PlayStation, the PR people for Microsoft, with the exception maybe of Major Nelson, but even him, they're on brand to an extent. You're a gunslinger.
I wasn't prepared for this question.
I like to give you something new. You know what I mean? Just because we did a 2-hour pre-interview yesterday doesn't mean I'm not going to have stuff for you today.
First of all, I'm relieved that I wasn't a huge prick to you when we interacted on Twitter.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, audience, but I want to say we've done a kind of funny video since then that maybe it was a Q&A, maybe it was something, and somebody's like, who'd you want on the show? And I was like, you, because I felt like, not that there was bad blood.
I do remember out of nowhere, like at one point, I got a bunch of like, hey, Game Over Greggy wants you on the show.
Well, it's because like...
And it just sort of came out of left field.
And that was the thing, is like, you know what I mean? Like my career arc and how much, I mean, like when we initially pop up, first off, Twitter to everyone's new at the time, and it's like whatever, and then some fucking podcast from IGN's doing. You know, I'm sure you're like, well, I'm talking to IGN already for their news stories. I don't need, you know what I mean? But for us, we're like, oh fuck, like I want to talk to you, and I want to have conversations with you about
it. Here's my best swipe at an answer. Number one, important to realize that in a lot of ways, my background at Bethesda is very much what an indie shop would look like. 1999, I get hired by that company to be the director of PR and marketing. It was a handful of devs, the president, a sales assistant. I had a marketing artist, Todd Vaughn, our VP of development or director of development, I guess at the time, was there. And like as far as Bethesda goes, that was about it. So for the first until 2005, I think, was when I hired Aaron Losey to come in and do actual PR and marketing with me. I did all the community stuff. I did all the PR. I did all the marketing. Whatever it was, like I did it. I worked on the box. I worked on the ads. I worked on the trailers. I was in the forums talking to people. Like that was just what I knew. And I'm a big believer in as much as possible trying to be open and honest and communicate with people the best I can. Full disclosure, it has not always served me well because things that I say where I'm like, joking and like, trying to be funny, and somebody takes it as a complete insult or backhanded slap, or I'm being like, ooh, why are you so savage? Like, savage, like somebody asked me like how the answer to a question, to your point, like I have 140 characters, like you could just Google that. Like you don't really
always so fun.
Right? Like, so like I remember the specific incident recently where somebody asked me a question. I was like, look, if you Google from my name or Todd's name and about this, like you'll find a number of interviews with that. And I got this feedback from a couple folks like, why are you such a dick to people? Like, well, I thought I was just trying to help point that person to a much better answer than I can give you in 140 characters. Like I don't just get to go on and on like I get to do here with you, where I get to provide the proper context and so forth. Yeah. But the base thing is I do think that level of interaction is important. Now, I am by far not the only person at our company who does that. I have an amazing global community lead, Matt Grandstaff, who works with our community team, and Jess and Jason and Evan and Jess. Like they spend all of their time on social, like talking to people and trying to answer questions. But I still think it's important for me to do it because even though I have the title that I have, that's not really how I view myself. Sure. If that makes sense.
No,
like, I'm just a guy at Bethesda trying to do my job the best I can. And sometimes maybe I'm a little bit more candid than I should be. Somebody once asked me, like, how do you deal with all of the like hate or like people asking you about TES 6 and when it's coming out, or to confirm or deny some rumor about a game? Like, well, truth of them is every now and then I just try and be a little funny or whatever to like let a little steam off. And not in a mean way, but hopefully just, I mean, sometimes it's mean, but if it's mean, it's 100% of the time because it's directed at an asshole who just says something like, fuck you and fuck Bethesda and you suck. And like, yeah, I'll give that guy shit back. I don't care. Yeah. Most of the time I just go in and mute him because I love the idea of people screaming into the void and thinking that
this is my argument. Me and Colin argues, I gotta block. I'm like, no,
don't block them. I block people who are like who way overdo it, and it gets to the point where it's like that. Like, I've had people threaten my kids. Like, people get Skyrim PS3 did me no favors because they're looking to scream at somebody. They don't want to scream at a building, right?
Sure.
They want to scream at a guy. Yeah. Like, even if it's not the guy in charge, I want a name that I can yell at and vent my frustrations because I'm unhappy and upset. As well you should. Like, you're a consumer, you spent money, you're pissed off. Like, it doesn't matter to you that it's not my fault. You're just mad, and you have a right to be. But I do love the mute function. It's my favorite thing in the world because of that. Because oftentimes
they don't even know.
I get a little bit, like, I feel a little better inside when I know I will never have to read what that person says again, and they're just going to scream into the void, and they have no idea that I've muted you, and you're just yelling at a wall in a basement. Uncle Touchy's naked puzzle basement somewhere, like screaming into the dark corner. That's a Patton Oswalt reference for the Canadian fans out there. Yeah. So I do feel like that level of interaction is important, and I want people to know at the very least that they're being heard. It's amazing how many times that I've simply responded and said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I understand. Or we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. People like, well, I don't want to pay $60 for the Skyrim Special Edition. It should be $30. And I say, okay, you get to decide how to spend your money. If it's not worth $60 to you, I totally get it. And that people take that as like, oh, you're just being a jerk. Like, no, I'm not. I'm being respectful. I'm telling you, like, you decide how to spend your money. I don't get to decide that. I don't ever try and change your mind or convince you of something because I don't think it's possible. I think I can put out information about what we're doing that you can look at and say, that interests me and I want to buy it, or that's not my cup of tea and I don't care.
Sure.
But that's on you. That's not on me. And I'm going to do what our job, I'm going to try and do my job the best way I can to be kind of honest and say, like this is the game that we're making. I don't think I've ever had anybody say, like, you guys misrepresented the game, like it totally wasn't like that or anything. Like, I think we're pretty true to what the experience is because I think that's what good marketing and PR is. It's taking the experience you're going to have playing it and bringing it out in trailers and screenshots and how we talk about it. But that's just who I am. Like, genuinely, Greg, I love to help people. And I care a lot about my company. I care about our fans, and it makes me feel good to try and answer questions, help people out. Like, I enjoy that. You got to take the good with the bad, and you're going to piss people off when you do it, or somebody's going to take it the wrong way.
No matter what,
I've apologized to people that, to my core, I was like, I do not want to apologize to this person, or they are totally misstating what I'm doing. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to just say, like, yep, my bad, whatever. I've shared bad information or said dumb stuff. I've never once deleted a tweet because something I said didn't go over well. Like, I own up to it. I said it, and I'll take whatever crap I'm going to get for it, because I think that's how people should operate. And not everybody does, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to hold myself to that standard. That's who I am. I'm going to stay true to myself.
No, I mean, it's funny, so much of what you said is how I feel about everything I do, right? And that was the problem of being at IGN a lot of the times, was the fact that, all right, cool. Oh, they tell us, okay, no more cursing on podcasts, right? And so we do a podcast where we don't curse, and then we get a million questions like, what's happening? Because we're like, we are close on that one.
Yeah.
And then next week I'm like, oh, we were told not to curse. And then I get pulled into an office, and they're like, why did you say that? I'm like, because that's why. What do you mean why? That's how it's what you asked me to do, and like
right.
they didn't, like, that transparency wasn't what they were looking for.
Yep.
And the same thing happens here. Like, we talk about all the time. Like, we were talking about it yesterday. I think there comes a point where you get to the gap, and you're like, all right, cool. We're not going to cross. This isn't a relationship that has to exist. And we call our kids, our fans, best friends, right? Yep. Because it is. If you come in and you adopt this, and our kids are awesome to each other and awesome to other people in the industry and do all these amazing things, but you just know at a glance with a comment that, okay, this isn't going to work. And we put up a video over the weekend where I did we do these new things where we have these videos where on Patreon, if you support us at $15 and above, you get all the benefits, obviously, of the rest of the perks below it, but you also get to be part of these AMAs where you ask us a question and then we make a video and we put it up on YouTube. And we did the first one, and this kid commented, and he was just like, $15, man, you're ripping off your fans, and he didn't even watch the whole video, because at the end I'm like, remember, you get everything else. This isn't just, you're not just paying $15 to get your question read. And so like he was like, I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. And some kid was like, bye, whatever his name was, and I responded back. I was like, see you later, blah blah blah, his name. And then so many kids responded to that, and then they're like, Greg's ego truly has gone to his head, and like, this was Tim's dream, but Greg's the one who's off there. And then they're like, well, Colin's been. And I'm like, all right, guys, like, what do you?
It's such nonsense. And honestly, it goes back to what I said about game development, which is there's no pleasing everybody. And ultimately, like, I totally agree with that. Like, bye, like, well, like, what else are you supposed to say? Like, please don't come back. Like, I got to spend all day, every day trying to convince every single person who doesn't want to buy Doom that they have to buy Doom. Like, what's the current console and PC install base? Like, how many phone calls am I going to have to make a day to reach everybody who didn't buy Doom? Like, that's honestly, that's no way to live. Like, you got to focus on the people who are interested or willing to have a conversation, or at the very least be respectful. When I hear you talk about your sort of fan base and your fans, like, that's the way it should be, right? Like, just being respectful. It doesn't mean you have to agree all the time, but you can disagree and still walk away and be friends. And honestly, like, that's my approach. If you're going to be respectful to me, you don't have to like what we do. But if all you're going to do is harass or bitch and moan and troll, like, you go into the mute file, and I'm done with you. And I don't care if you like what I say or not. Like, I'm 47 years old. I've been doing this a long time, and I've actually this year spent a lot of time talking to people on my team about things that I really want to do better, things that I'm doing that I don't like, and things that I want to try and change. But there's only so much about me that I'm going to change, and I'm not going to be a kiss ass, and I'm not going to tell everybody they're super important and special, or oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't like. You don't like me. You don't like what I have to say.
You gotta have a statement. You gotta go.
Okay. Like, I don't think you really know anything about me, but you're allowed, again, just like our games, you're allowed to make a decision about me based on whatever criteria you want. And if you decide that I'm a jerk and not a nice person, okay, goodbye.
So now, the philosophy you have, and again, I think with how Bethesda has been evolving or coming on the scene or whatever you want to say with it, is that reflected in the way you think of games, press, journalism, media stuff too? Because like this year, or I guess in the calendar year of last year, you guys did the thing where you're like, all right, cool. You made the statement that review copies aren't going out early anymore. Like, you did it with Doom, where Doom was like, it just dropped, dropping every other day. Before, and so everybody's putting up their articles. here's why you won't see a Doom review. Here's why we're doing review in progress when we get it, da-da-da.
Right.
And then for the next time around, it was Dishonored, correct? Dishonored 2.
Dishonored
you were
2.
like, here's the official statement. We aren't going to give out review copies anymore.
Well, not like...
Early.
Yeah.
Sorry, my
super
apologies.
early. Yeah,
Bad phrasing.
No, I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Is that part of the same thing where you want to be open and honest and you want to talk to the audience more than you want to talk to the media?
It's not either or. It comes from the same place. You know, you mentioned it a little while ago about the 2015 showcase, and like the actual reason for that wasn't just like we thought we really had a strong lineup or a lot going on, or we wanted to make any specific kind of statement. It was a big part of it was, I want to say it was in 2014. I first thought and pitched the idea to Todd specifically because I knew that Fallout was the thing we were going to be talking about the next year. And it was, one, hey, what if you only had to do the demo once instead of having to do it every hour on the hour, like in a special theater in our room over and over all 3 days? Because it's exhausting. It really takes a toll on you. Talking all day, as you well know, is not an easy thing to do. Like, it physically wears on you. But the other thing is that so much of what we were doing to that point was through a filter. Where we were showing something, we were showing a demo or letting people do hands-on, and then what we were doing was getting filtered out to everybody else through somebody else. And there were so many times we would do a demo and then look at the previews and be like, God, how did nobody talk about this? How did nobody mention, this or this or this or all these like cool things that we think the fans will be really interested in, but the fans can't see it.
Right.
Like, what do we do? And so it was an effort to try and do something that everybody could see. And by the way, not just like the fans, obviously that was a big part of it, like for them to be able to see directly, but it was also, we book appointments in past years for Skyrim, or when I met you and Colin for the Fallout 3 demo. Like, well, how many people from IGN actually got to see or do any of that, right?
Yeah.
It's 1 or 2 or whatever.
And then there's that mad dash in the final day. All right, you're up for the game of the show. Can we bring 15 people?
Right. And you have all of these other, like, well, I want lots of people to see it. Whether it's a site or a magazine or whatever, like, well, I don't want just 1 or 2 people there.
Sure.
Like, I want everybody to be able to see, like, I saw that. Like, we can have a conversation as opposed to it all being one direction. And so the idea of the showcase was, look, everybody gets to see it and have a conversation around it, and the fans can go pour over and go frame by frame and look at stuff and talk about things that may have gotten missed or not talked about. But everybody's kind of on the same page with the same information, the same footing. And honestly, I think our review strategy was born a lot out of that same belief, which is we were not huge fans of the notion that reviews go out there and they go into this vacuum where a select group of people will have passed a judgment on a title, and the audience that is reading that has no real information to be able to shit detect whether or not that person really got the game and is communicating clearly what's going on, or didn't really get it, or they agree or disagree. And at the end of the day, it feels like that is more genuine. That's more transparent. Like, everybody has access to the same information in the same way. I'm not afraid of a review going out any number of days early. At this point, I'm not afraid of anything. What I want for people to have access to the same information. It's not that everybody who reads the review will have played it. Like, well, obviously reviews are for plenty of people who haven't played the game or are waiting to decide. But there's some volume of people who say, you've played the game for 20 hours, so have I. And by the way, these things are incorrect.
You missed this system. You don't understand this.
Yeah. Or how did you not mention that you could play through everything in stealth mode? Like, I never killed anybody. What do you mean it's a bloodbath and it's just about stabbing people? Like, I played totally non-lethal. Right? There's a level of, I guess accountability is part of it, but it's more just there's no favoritism. It's more transparent.
Sure.
And I think, I could be wrong. I often am. But I think it lends itself to more dialogue and discussion amongst everybody, as opposed to, well, these guys have this and all of these people over here, when they read it, by the time they figure out how much of that was true or not true, like it's 7 days, 10 days old news, and it's fallen down the page, and now there is no discussion about that. And we saw it in the case of Doom, and we saw it in the case of Dishonored 2, where in either direction, you can have folks who write really gushing praise stuff, and it's very clear this person played the game for 2 hours, and they have no clue what actually happened. You've read these reviews, right? I've read reviews for my own stuff that embarrassed me because it was the copy that was on the back of the box, right? I could read it and go, there's not a single sentence in this review that tells me that this person played the game.
This game,
Now, people might say, well, why do you care? You got a 10 out of 10. You know why I care? Because I sent a copy to that person because I assume they're professional, and I'm not looking to just get back of the box copy out there. I could have sent that copy to somebody else. It's not like I have infinite copies to send. And I want somebody to respect and take time to evaluate the thing that somebody spent 3 years making and and poured their heart and soul into. Like, at least have the decency to give it a fair shake and tell folks what's really going on there, and to show us that you've actually played it. And by the way, I've experienced the same thing, and it's a far better way to judge for games that other people make that I play and enjoy, and to be able to read and go, this person doesn't get this game at all. Like I've played this game. I've played it for longer than you, or whatever. And like, you're totally missing the point. Maybe this isn't your genre. Maybe you didn't play it, whatever. But I find that really instructive. And I think it's much better to have that dialogue in an environment where everybody is on a more even playing field. And in the case of the two games you mentioned, like, they're really good games.
Yeah, that was the concern, right? When Doom was coming up, and it was because we've talked about it before. Like, of course, when it used to be, and still for the most part is, not you guys, but for a lot of times, if you're getting the game on release date, something's wrong with this. They're trying to hide something because they don't want to lose pre-orders.
We were very aware of that when we were talking about this. Like, it was a real concern and risk of, like, how much crap are we going to take while we sit here silent on Doom, and people are like, it must be really bad, or there must be problems, like they're not sending out copies in advance. And for Dishonored 2, the reason we put that out was, well, all of these things went up for Doom where people, without comment from us, were saying those things, and here's our article on why our Doom review isn't coming up. And there was all this conversation about transparency and so on and so forth. And we said, okay, well, we'll be upfront. I mean, this kind of goes back to your earlier point. Like, we'll be transparent. We're going to tell you why, and we're going to tell you ahead of time, so you're not just reading somebody's article and assuming you know why it's not going out. No, we're going to tell you, and we're going to tell you, hey, if you need review scores, you should totally wait. Like, we're completely supportive of that, but this is what we're doing, and this is why, and now you know. And we did have some concerns about, like, I mean, not everybody is thrilled about
yeah, I was going to say, how did it go over? Is it because, like, I think when this announcement goes up, a lot of people read between the lines of, all right, Bethesda saying traditional games journalism, games media, enthusiast press, whatever the hell you want to call it, doesn't matter as much as it used to. And is that, I mean, do you feel like that is true? And then also, like, yeah, how do, and I'm not even asking outlet by outlet, magazine by magazine, how do people respond to it?
It was varied. I got, most of the feedback I got was behind the scenes, off the record, and I got messages from people who were like, totally get it, understand. I got notes from other publishers like, you're awesome. I wish we would do this too. I got notes from really unhappy, angry people. And there was a lot of stuff where people didn't talk to me, but they were out on social media just blasting us for it. I don't actually think it has as much to do with, like, what is the value of traditional media. I still think traditional media is tremendously valuable, but it depends on who the person is and the opinion they're giving and whether or not I respect their opinion, which is something that has to be earned. I think the value of traditional media, like, I still read movie reviews. I still read game reviews. I read them from sources that I respect because their take on stuff seems to jive well with mine. If you're constantly reading a reviewer who seems to completely disconnect with you and what you like playing, well, why are you reading what that person has to say? Because you're not actually getting anything helpful. Unless you just do the opposite of what they say, in which, I mean, that's a weird way to go about doing it. But for me, it's they are, when they do previews and interviews and so forth, like the value for me is in people who really know their stuff, bringing a take or an opinion or doing analysis that I don't necessarily get somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
You can watch our showcase yourself. You don't need anybody else, but it's fun and interesting to read other people's write-ups on it to see if they had a particularly different take or they noticed something or saw something that you didn't maybe see or think about. And you're like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Like that's the value of those, of all of those outlets, is their ability to bring some expertise and insight and to bring a take that is enough for me to read, even if I've already seen or played or watched the thing that they're writing about. I mean, I'm a Wake Forest basketball junkie, Mizzou, and I still read articles from multiple outlets after every basketball game that I fucking watched myself. I sat there for 2 hours. There's nothing about that game that article is necessarily going to tell me about what happened, but I'm looking for the insight from the reporter to talk about what a player did or didn't do, or a coach's insight on something that maybe I hadn't noticed. Like that's the value. Like I don't need their help in figuring out the score. I was there. I watched it. It sucked.
Yeah.
But getting that analysis from an analyst or a reporter I find valuable, particularly if it's one that has earned my respect by frequently being able to sort of highlight things or bring to light things that I maybe necessarily wouldn't have noticed myself.
I mean, no, you're hitting the nail on the head, I think, in terms of where we are and what works and what doesn't right now in games press. And the fact that, like, the whole reason we exist, right, is because people just trust our opinions and they don't care if they're outdated. You know, Tim and I played Emily is Away way late and put up a Let's Play about it. And so many people hit us up. I bought it because of you guys. Yeah. And I finally got around to playing Hue over Christmas break and tweeted about it. And so many people bought it because of that. And then Colin started playing it and talking about it too. Like there's that discovery element of it, and you want, and like, you know, like the most popular live streams we do on Twitch are all right, here's the post show to the Nintendo Switch event, to the PlayStation event, to the Bethesda showcase. You know what I mean? Like people want to hear you talk about.
By the way, on this topic, I thought out of all of the stuff that I read and heard, I thought you guys had far and away the fairest conversation about this issue, about our review policy and why. Like I thought it was great. Like it was really to the point. Like you guys had really good insight. You talked about like, well, you know, we used to be on the other side of this, and like, I mean, in fairness, like it's not like it makes us look great, but I don't remember if it was you or Colin made the point about Skyrim PS3, like. Well, we did get early copies of Skyrim, and it's not like we called that out or called it before the copyright.
And that's the thing about it. Whereas, and this is back in the day, IGN, back when Skyrim came out, of like how broken multi-plat reviews were. Where it was like, all right, cool, I'm going to play it on my platform of choice, and then I pop it in and I play 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and say, all right, I saw this bug that I complained about over here, and I didn't see this, and blah, 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 and you put it out there. Whereas, like, now it is that thing that, with your policy or a policy similar to this, or just where we are, is that things drop and they know if there's a PlayStation problem with Watch Dogs 2, we would know about it. Mm-hmm. You know, because we're the guys who are going to do that, regardless if somebody played on Xbox One for the IGN review of it. And that's the interesting thing in the take and give, and how, you know, for us, we put up all these things on the Gamescast all the time of our review in progress or impressions, or like we took flack recently because Tim did one of the games and he put it up and he called it like, kind of blah blah blah, whatever, Game X review, right? And it was Resident Evil, I think, and I had beaten Resident Evil, and then Colin was almost there and Tim wasn't, and like this is discussion. People are like, well, Colin, how can you call? Well, I'm reviewing it, and also we're just giving you impressions. Like, are we that hung up right now on like how we're calling it?
I think we might be, but in any case, I just wanted to mention, like, I think I sent you a note afterwards, and we chatted about it a little bit, but I thought at the very least that you guys were fair and at least trying to put it in context and sort of see the bigger picture. And ultimately, it's just that. It's just, rightly or wrongly, maybe it's the right approach, maybe it's not, but we think it's good to have that kind of open where everybody is part of the same dialogue and people aren't engaging on different levels. Like, well, how could you tell me whether or not the Fallout 4 demo was good? Yep. You didn't even see it. You just read some guy's write-up, and like, it's way better if you could just watch the whole thing and go, oh yeah, like, I thought that was awesome. I don't know why he didn't like it or why he wrote that. I thought it, you know, whatever it is.
I think it's just an interesting glimpse at how you guys have to deal with the business that's constantly changing, and the fact that live streams and Twitch and, you know, just the audience in general, the fan, the Dishonored fan, how much that, if you run a Dishonored YouTube channel and you have 20,000 subs, you probably matter a bit more in terms of what's your opinion on this game versus somebody who's just like, cool, I work for GameSite X and I've gotten Dishonored and now I'm going to go review it. I think there's something to that.
Sure. I would agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like to that, because when you're talking about to a hardcore audience or something like that,
Yep.
and people are always up and, oh, well, what does this mean of like, will people not preview their games? Will they not do this? Is there going to be blowback from it? And it was like, well, if there is, do you want to be part of that site go to that place that's going to play ball like that? Because this wasn't a malicious move on your part.
No, and again, like I think there's value. Again, even if I can watch a demo, I still think there's value in reading somebody else's preview for the insight. Like, well, maybe it's a sequel and I never played the original ones, and I'm looking for some insight on like Mass Effect is a bad idea, but like I'm looking for somebody who's maybe played all of them and I haven't, and they can give me a little bit more information. Like, well, I didn't have the entire context for what I just watched.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And so then this is something in the same vein that we talked about yesterday. I want to dial it over there. So when you get a bad preview, what does that do to you? And the example I gave yesterday was Evil Within. Is that when you guys showed Evil Within for the first time at PAX East, me, Damon, and I think Marty, somebody else from IGN went and saw it behind closed doors. Dave Clayman was giving us the demo.
Good old Dave.
Good old Dave Clayman. And we left and we were all like, okay, that looks rough. That's in bad shape. This isn't good. And we did a video where like none of this, and then a lot of other people said the same thing. And then it was like Evil Within comes out and it's awesome. I'm like, oh fuck, like we missed the context and this wasn't it. And like, that was when you were doing, hey, come into this room and we're going to give you 15 times a day over and over again every 30 minutes. Like, What did that preview mean to you guys?
Well, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday in the context of like, well, in that particular case, why didn't you think you were in trouble on the Evil Within from a dev standpoint? Yeah. That one was really more of a failing on the part of good game, bad demo. Like, I don't think people don't always realize how difficult it is to put together a good demo of something.
That Prey 2 demo was great.
Yeah, it was. And people don't also realize that a great demo does not always equal a game that's either great or even shippable. And I think in that case, I think we, myself, my group, dev, production, whoever, just put something together that didn't really have the right context for this is what this game is about and trying to do, whether we picked a bad part and threw you into the deep end of the pool or whatever it was. Like, we just picked the wrong mix of stuff to give you the context for this is what is good about this game. And to use a name I keep dropping, one of the reasons why Todd is excellent at what he does is he already knows when he's making a thing what the demo for that product, like, he can tell you, I guarantee you. I haven't actually asked him, but I know he knows the answer. Like, your next game, do you know what the opening, the first trailer, the reveal trailer looks like? I guarantee you he knows. I guarantee you he knows what the box looks like. I guarantee you he knows what he wants to show off in the demo. Now, it may not end up being that thing, but he has a vision in his head of how am I going to take all of this? How the hell am I going to take Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Skyrim, hundreds of hours of open-ended gameplay and distill it down into a nugget that you walk away and go, like, shit, I got it, right? Yeah. Like, because you could show off Skyrim and have it suck. Like, you can't. I mean, it'll look cool, but if you just wander through the wilderness and never find anything and never pick anything up and you don't fight anybody and you just kind of wander aimlessly through and in 15 minutes you go, okay, well, that's the demo. Thanks for coming. Have a good E3. Like, people are going to like, what in the hell? Like, is that a walking simulator? What did I just see? So it does take talent and insight, even on the part of the people making the game, to come up with something that takes what you're making and distills it down into a digestible chunk that people can take away and understand. Whether that takes 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 50 minutes, it's not always easy to do. And it's something we actually more and more, and I was talking earlier about going through the process of shipping a game with somebody and what that's like and how it gets better the second time around. Like, this is actually part of it. Like, having conversations around when are we going to announce it? When are we going to release it? And like, how many beats in between do we have? Like, can we get away with just having to do like one demo or two? Because every time you do a demo, you're taking time away from making a final thing that goes in a box to give me a small digestible thing, whether it's hands-on or it's it's video or whatever. Like, it takes time away. Like,
Sure.
because
games aren't made like that. It's not like, all right, we finished everything in this level. Let's move on.
At any given moment, any game in the world has something going on that makes it fucked up and completely uncapturable on video, right? There's a lighting bug, there's an animation bug, there's a collision thing, whatever it is. And so you have to spend time on that tiny little section of the world fixing all of that stuff just in that one instance, even if that's not the way you would fix it across the whole game necessarily, because E3 is coming. We don't get to move E3 date, and we need to have something to show people, in a showcase that everybody's going to see, like, this is the thing that we're making. And so it is definitely a challenge. We haven't always done it right. We've done really good ones. My favorite ones that we've done is always ones where somebody comes in and we hand the controller, the Fallout 3 one where I met you and Colin, where it's just like, look, you got an hour for us, you got 57 minutes. Here's the controller. You're going to start outside the vault and go. Like, what do you mean go? Like, just go wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. Don't go past this dialogue thing, so you don't spoil the main story for everybody. But otherwise, do whatever the hell you want, have fun, and just letting people get loose in the world. Those are the most fun to read. We talked about, like, why do you read? Because you read all the different ways that people sort of express themselves or tried things, or there's journalists who would be like, well, everybody I talked to went this way, so I went the exact opposite way just because I wanted to see, is there anything there? How does the game adapt? What is there to do?
Well, that always speaks to me in what you guys, the quality of your games, and even before, like, I really think you've come into your own, or whatever the hell you want to say, before you become like this fucking all-star. With the same PAX where Evil Within was in that room, you had Wolfenstein out there with a whole bunch of sessions. And I actually, what had happened is we went and saw Evil Within, and then the next day came back, and that's when I saw Dave Clayman against a wall like this. And I'm like, how you doing? He's like, we're doing fine. I'm like, all right, great. I'm going to go play Wolfenstein. And I walked in, I'm like, all right, I'm here to do my Wolfenstein demo. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's your controller and your headphones. It's 2 hours. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I thought it was going to be like a 15-minute demo. It's like, oh no. And I played it, and it started off like, I'm not that big of a shooter guy. And it totally was like, all right. And then by the end, I'm like, when I put down the controller left, I was like, that game's really good. Like, holy shit. Like, no wonder they let us play 2 hours of it. They're super confident. And, like, especially for a game that didn't have any buzz. I mean, it was Wolfenstein. That's a name. But a thing of, like, this studio you've never heard of is making Wolfenstein.
Well,
and it's
with
awesome.
a banged up brand. I mean, we also went into that knowing, like, it's not like that was a household name and every game in that was
fantastic.
Like, we had to sort of, hit the reset button on that and say, look, don't worry about that, what that was. Just focus on what these guys are doing now.
Yeah.
Don't judge it based on what came before.
Final question from me, and then we'll go through reader mail. Quick fire.
Yeah.
I think I'd be remiss not to ask. We talked about transparency. We talked about how you've handled it. You handle it with the audience. How you've handled it with the game review policy and stuff like that. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the mod thing that happened, where you guys put up the mods for Fallout 4.
Oh,
where it was like, hey, we've done all we can. It's not coming to PlayStation unless they fix it. Was that, number one, Colin talked about it yesterday for a second, and I agree that it was like a brilliant move to either be like, hey, we've played all our cards. Like, this is where we want to talk to you and explain to you what's happening, and this is what's happening. Hopefully Sony fixes it. But was there complete terror of, like, Sony be like, all right, well, fuck you. You're never making games with us again?
I don't know about complete terror, but I also think we reached a point, given where we were and the fact that, like, it had reached the state of parity across all platforms, but on this one, like, it wasn't out, and we don't have ultimate say on what we can or can't do. There's rules for every console.
Yeah.
If you were to go out and design a game console, you should be allowed to design the rules for this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. And in this case, like, we couldn't go forward. We couldn't talk about everything that were the reasons why. So we just had to give a basic thing of, look, it works and hasn't been approved, and we don't really know what's going to happen next, because we just felt like we couldn't sit there and continue to say nothing when we had done, as you said, everything that we could, and didn't really know which direction that was going to go from there. It could have gone straight into the in the toilet. Some would argue that was already the toilet, but we could have gone straight in the toilet from there and never gotten anywhere. Or we could get to where we are today, where folks from Sony, folks from Bethesda Game Studios got together and worked the problem and came up with a solution that we could get through. And we said, okay, well then, like that's what we're going to do. But yeah, I just think at that point we felt like it had been long enough, and we had done, I guess, everything we felt like we could do that was in our power, and we needed to say something, because at the end of the day, it was our fans.
Sure.
Right?
Oh yeah,
They bought our game. They had a level of expectation, and we to continue to just sort of say no update, check back next week, which just at some point becomes no longer viable.
Was there a moment when all that started where you're like, we're never making another PlayStation game? Because I feel like PlayStation 3 with Skyrim, right? It was like, God damn it. All right, everybody get to hard work. And then Fallout 4, you're like, all right, here we go. We're back. Oh, God damn it. Another PlayStation problem.
No.
Because that's how we were with Vimeo.
I did say
we're
the
like,
last
never.
thing. I was like, I was like, God damn it again. In part because, to my previous point, like people don't like yelling at buildings or logos. They want to yell at somebody.
Yeah,
so the person they yell at is me.
And you're like, I got it. Fallout 4. I'm returning the grace.
And the thing that they always yell at me about, Greg, is like, you're an Xbox fan. You hate PlayStation. And I remember saying at one point, one of those, like, maybe not the best thing, like I should have checked my swing, but I was like, dude, do you know how many goddamn Sony consoles that I own? Like, I own 3 PS3s and 3 PS4s and 2 Vitas and a PSP. Like, I love PlayStations. I got headphones and a jacket and a play. Like, I love this console. I love this thing. I want it to work. I was playing Fallout 4 on
the PlayStation 4.
Like, I can't play mods either. Like, this pisses me off too, but that doesn't mean we're wrong or not trying. And it was a different situation. In the case of Skyrim PS3, it was that, like, look, we made the game. We had some problems with the game running on that console. It was 100% down to us to fix it and address it, which we did and ultimately solved.
Yeah.
So, hey, can we? Speaking of PlayStation consoles,
this thing that we forgot to do on the episode we lost.
So this is no longer a surprise, but it's still funny.
Still very nice. This is awesome.
So back when I was traveling, I think I was headed to London, and you started the PlayStation Vita relocation program.
That's right.
And you asked, like, hey, have you got a Vita shoved in a corner or whatever? And I was like, actually, I got 2. One's in my office and one's somewhere in my house.
Yeah.
Well, this is the one in my house.
An OLED one, no less.
Which I reset and brought to you
Yes.
to give away to one lucky.
Thank you very much.
Kind of funny game.
The Vita relocation program grows to 5 now, I
There
believe.
we go.
have 5 PlayStation
so whoever
Vitas.
gets this,
More than 2,000 people want the Vitas. We have 5. One day I'll have to mail them out.
but whoever gets it, please give it a good home. Love it. Take good care of it. Make sure you polish the screen every day.
Thank you, Kev.
But I want to contribute to the Vita relocation program.
glad,
I still got my other one, so it's not like I'm
you're
making a
still
complete
playing one.
sacrifice.
No,
but I can make do with one.
Yeah.
It's probably just
I still
because
think
hate
you're just trying to cover up that you guys are such Xbox
It's probably just
fanboys.
because I hate PlayStation.
Exactly. We all know you're in bed with the Scorpio people. I saw Todd in the video
Kiss my ass.
talking about his teraflops. I don't even know what the hell's going on over there. All this different stuff. All right, so here we go. First off, I'm pretty sure I didn't say it. Patreon producer Steven Insler, thank you for your 3,000th month of support over at patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. I'm going to read questions now, though, that you all, because Tim tweeted out, hey, going to have Pete Hines on. What are your Bethesda questions? You all, of course, went to kindoffunny.com/gamecast questions. Game? No? Tim left already, right? He's, of course, he gets to rest before this.
What half of them did was just replied back to Tim and I and said, "Here's my question." And one of your beautiful fans was like, "He posted a link where you're supposed to put all these."
All the time. Hey, go to this link. And then, you can go to Kind of Funny.
I was good. I didn't answer any of them on Twitter, so that I didn't ruin the fun.
Oh, here we go. And I like this because I tried to dodge some of these because I knew we doubled up a lot last time. Not this time. Sorry, we are says, just curious what the thinking was behind revealing Fallout 4 only a few months before the game launched. It seemed to have been a very popular move at a time when we see quite a few AAA games being delayed frequently after being revealed years earlier. Do you think it's a precedent others will follow?
I don't know if it's a precedent. As I said, as it relates to us, we try and evaluate every game based on what its needs are and how long we think it'll take. I will tell you in general, though, and I'm 98% confident in this answer, that just about every dev in the world would love for the window to be like a day or almost not at all.
Yeah.
Because they hate showing off their stuff in progress. It stresses them out. It's a lot of work to put this stuff together. And the longer the period is, the more stuff that they're going to have to do, because you can't just announce a game X months in advance and then do nothing. You gotta put some screenshots out there.
Sure.
You gotta show some gameplay. You gotta do a trailer. You gotta talk about the characters. You gotta do whatever. So all of that stuff is more things that get added to their pile on top of this really hard thing of making and shipping a video game. So in general, devs always like it shorter. I've done campaigns that were literally years and years long. And all the way down to what we did for Shelter, which was the best one, which is, hey, here's the thing, and you can go download it right now on at least on iPhone, which was awesome and really good. I don't know what we'll do going forward. There's always this balancing act of a lot of internal things, right? The sales guys working with retailers, setting all of this stuff up, working with publishing partners in countries where we don't distribute games. You need time to set all that stuff up and to get the word of mouth out there. But I would say, in general, we felt like, what we did with Fallout 4 was a success. But every game is different and has its own needs. And as far as what other publishers might do, I have no idea.
I feel like it comes down to like, how much do you have to explain, right? Like Fallout 4, cool, it's Fallout 4, awesome, great.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Prey, all right, cool, we're doing something completely different. You need the trailers. You need us to walk you through and explain what the systems are and how this is going to shake out.
That's very true.
Yeah. Mr. Jetton says, how's that new Wolfenstein coming? Colossus.
What is it?
Colossus. Remember this one? You showed it in your little trailer.
I did?
Yeah. It booted up and it went through all the games, and that was there.
Really?
Yeah.
It said new Colossus? Weird. Machine Games has been hard at work on something, which I can tell you I have played. It is fucking bananas, and I can't wait to show what it actually is and what they're actually up to.
E3 2017?
And I'll let you know when.
Okay. Well, E3 2017. Kinda Pete says, hello, Pete. I assume Kinda Pete made this account to ask you this question.
Okay.
Hello, Pete. Can you talk a little bit about the major differences between big titles such as Fallout and similar ones like Dishonored or Prey from a marketing perspective? Big and small only in terms of sales figures, not quality, of course.
The short answer to that is there really isn't any. Like our approach to every game is we have to do the best job possible to put the best foot forward for that product. And that's true regardless of how many sales figures. So, Skyrim shipped with 20 million or whatever the hell it was over the first few months. It's not like we tried extra hard for Skyrim, but this other game over here is only 2 million. It's like, shit, we can just mail that one in. Like, we'll just work on that during, lunch breaks and happy hours and stuff. That the way we're organized, the way my team is organized, that, I stand here and talk to Greg, much like Todd does about the game, and it's sort of like it ain't me doing it. I did not do the Fallout 4 campaign. I will go on record as saying I didn't do almost the vast majority of Fallout 4. That was Paris and Carlos and Ange and Matt Grandstaff and Tracy and Aaron and Steve Perkins and all these people that I have on my team who spend all this time working on these things and making up cool, fun ideas, the special videos that we did.
Yeah.
Like that was all like Paris's thing. She sort of pushed that and put together this great thing, and it was so cool. They ended up being in the game. But the people who are working on these things, like they put everything they have into making the thing that they're working on the best possible, because they're not working on Fallout. They're not working on Doom or whatever else. Their whole focus is on, the title that they're assigned to. So we don't really half measure it or say like, well, we'll try 70% because this game's sales are X. Everything that we do is like, we got to make it feel like a Bethesda game, which means quality and fun and doing some things that are interesting and unique and really bringing the essence of what the devs are making to the fans beforehand, so they really get a sense of what the game is about.
That's something interesting too that you talked about a bit yesterday that we didn't touch on here. The fact that your devs, you don't make them like you have a gun to there. You allow, or you want your devs to be as involved as possible
in our process.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I used the Machine Games guys as an example because they had been somewhere else before working with other publishers, and when we worked on the first Wolfenstein, we were talking to them about like the box or the trailers or all of this stuff, and they were like what like you want us to talk to you about what the box is? We're like, yeah, like we have these ideas and designs, and like is there something? They're like, yeah, well, like half the time for other games we worked on, like we found out about the box when it got announced online. We're like, oh, they picked a box for us. Like, okay, well that's not what I would have done.
Conspiracy or whatever.
But that's part of our process. Is we want the devs to be involved in the process and to buy into what we're doing, and to make sure that everything we're doing fits with the tone and the vibe of the game we're making, because that's really the beginning of your interaction with any game is not when you put the disc in, it's all of the stuff that you do and see around that game leading up to then. The way a Prey trailer makes you feel is part of the experience of playing Prey, because it's creating a tone and a vibe and for what your expectations are, which is why I was talking before about we really don't ever do things that are wildly disconnected from the game experience, because we think the marketing is part of the game experience, that the website and the label on the disc and what the box looks like all ought to feed into the same kind of experience that the game itself is providing.
You put TLC into it. You use that from here
a lot.
On. There you go. Yeah. Space Ghost says, "Hey Pete, as a young professional in entertainment PR myself, film, what advice would you give to people trying to make the transition into gaming PR/marketing? What are the most essential characteristics, tools, or skills? P.S. Prey looks amazing."
Thank you. I get this question a lot. The truth is there's no sort of formulaic, easy answer. Everybody's got a lot of different paths, and I've only ever worked at Bethesda, so I don't really have the ability to say like, well, this is the kind of stuff that EA looks at Activision. Like, how the hell would I know? I've only been at Bethesda. But in general, I think that what we tend to look for are people who are well-rounded. They've been involved in a lot of different things. If you do PR, you didn't just do PR. You worked in a lot of different areas, whether you volunteered for stuff or, took on student assistant positions while you were in college.
You were talking about how much you did in college, right?
Yeah, like when I was at Wake, I was a DJ at the radio station, and I was the manager of the Macintosh labs back when none of us had our own computers and we all went to labs to use them. You hip youngsters that have no idea what that is.
The iPads and your phones.
Yeah, I was a research assistant for a finance professor. I was a student assistant for the sports information department. I was an announcer for men's soccer games. I did women's basketball color commentary. Like I did all this different stuff that kind of gave me insight into different areas like public speaking and writing and working with people, whatever it is. And I think the more you can do to make yourself more well-rounded, it's invaluable, because if in a company like mine, those lines are blurred. Just because you're working in PR doesn't mean you don't need to know about community or influencers or branding and how to come up with a cohesive branding campaign that includes trailers and videos. Right? We involve everybody in all of that stuff. The other thing I would say is, to whatever extent possible, look for opportunities to put yourself in front of developers and publishers. That might be signing up to be a beta tester for something and giving really good beta test notes, which, by the way, 95% of people have no clue what that means. Giving beta test notes does not mean, here's all of my ideas how to make your game really cool and fun. It's a beta. They're already fucking done with all of that stuff. What they're looking for is what's broken or not fun. Right, and writing and reproducing it. Like, here's how I can reproduce how to fall through. Not like, you should do this and you should have this feature. Like, devs take that stuff and crinkle it up and throw it in the trash can. They're not looking to add features in beta. They're looking for well-written, well-thought-out commentary on what's not working in their game that can be addressed. So opportunities like that are awesome. It's a great way to get yourself in front of devs. Doesn't matter if it's an indie or a big company or whatever it is. Look for those opportunities to put yourself out there in front of folks and give them a chance to recognize you for what you can do, because you'd be amazed how many times people notice you or that matters. And the other thing is to keep in mind that in this day and age, video games, the people in your audience, like I bet most of them have grown up by and large with video games just being a thing, Whereas guys like me, like, well, that wasn't really a thing until I was 11 or 12 or whatever. And it's now become a focus of that's what I want to do for a living, which means it's highly competitive, which means you got to do stuff to set yourself apart.
You got to stand out.
If you're just going to school and working on a degree to be whether it's an animator or a marketing person or whatever, if that's all you're bringing to the table, that's simply not good enough. You got to take it the extra step and let your passion and enthusiasm and your desire come through.
I want to do two more. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Sam NW, what will Bethesda's strategy look like going forward in terms of studio expansion / acquisition? Are you planning to expand further? Or are you satisfied with the number of games that you're currently publishing?
We've never had any concrete plans for expanding. We continue to look for opportunities of studios we want to work with, but I think we covered this a little bit before, but in general, like, we're just looking for folks that we really want to work with or that have ideas to do games and the experience of proving they can do them, that is a good fit for us. Whether or not we acquire them is, by and large, almost irrelevant.
Like, you just want to put out good stuff.
I just want to put out good stuff. Yeah. And we look for those opportunities to do those kinds of things and to make good stuff. But there's no like acquire 3 companies in 3 years or whatever. Like, it's not really, because then what you end up doing is just acquiring people that hit a goddamn number. And then
you want to look at how big our stable is.
Yeah, and then you regret it. So you want to make sure that everything you do is to a level of quality and you're working with people who can do that.
This is a part of the industry, a side of it that I'm ignorant about. So is it as simple as a friend of a friend introduces you to somebody at GDC or at DICE, somebody you've met before in the background comes around and is just like, hey, like, well, and you're just shooting the shit about what's going on. Like, well, we have this idea for a game and we're shopping it, or is it very, if I'm an independent developer, is it very, I book a meeting through someone and I show up and I have a PowerPoint and...
It could be any or all of the above and a lot of flavors in between. There are any number of people that some number of us, the main person for this in our group is definitely not me. It's the guy who actually recruited me to Bethesda. His name is Todd Vaughn. He's our VP of development, and he's great at a lot of things, including identifying talent, identifying people who have a good fit in terms of their sensibilities and approach, and identifying projects and games that are really gonna stand out. And so a lot of it is just him keeping up with people and having conversations. And sometimes it's formal. Somebody's going to come in and present a thing. And sometimes it's what you said, like you bump into somebody at GDC who you haven't seen in a while, but like, hey, by the way, like, we're finishing up a thing. I want to talk to you about an idea that we have. Like,
nice.
You never know where it's going to come from. Arcane was entirely because Todd kept up with Ralph Colantonio over a number of years. He really liked and we really liked and respected some of the stuff they had done. Like the Might and Magic, the game. Mm-hmm. It's not Heroes, it's the other one. The first person, God damn it. Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But they did a really Messiah.
Is that what it was?
Was Messiah of Dark?
Just go.
Go.
The comments.
I'm plowing right through.
Someone in their car is listening to the NPC screaming out this game they love.
Yeah, pulling over the side of the road and yelling at me. It's been a long goddamn day. But they had done a number of things that we really thought were innovative and unique and different, and he kept up with Rob and kept looking for an opportunity when they were, coming off a project and had some Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Screw you! Stop tweeting at me. He eventually found a spot where they had time to talk to us about a thing and what we could work on, and that ended up being Dishonored. And then in the process of working on Dishonored, we started the conversation and they ended up coming in-house. But that was just simply him keeping up with the studio that he really liked and we talked about, and people played their games and looking for an opportunity, and it worked out great.
Awesome. And then final question comes from JRV. He says, or she says, how important do you think new IP are in the current video game market compared to both integrating popular games and reviving old dormant IP?
It depends. We good?
No.
You want me to go?
Expand on that answer.
Okay.
Mr. Hines,
the
blue book.
It depends, and we do a little bit of everything, from sort of rebooting things like a Wolfenstein that maybe had some of the sheen off. I mean, it was this really important first of the first-person shooters, but had seen better days. That Machine Game said, we really want to do that and kind of bring all these things that we do in our games of blending action and shooting and story and character. let's see. In the case of The Evil Within, it was Shinji wanting to do kind of a return to the roots of survival horror, and we don't have anything that's a fit for that. We should do a new IP. Dishonored was the same thing. Like Roth and Harvey wanting to do this really grounded first-person immersive power assassin fantasy stuff. Like, I don't have anything that fits that. What are we going to call it? What do we do? Actually, in that case, that was a game design that Todd Vaughn had written up that I swear was on our network, like starting in 99 or 2000 when I got to Bethesda, and sat there for a decade. And when he talked to Arcane, ended up being it ended up being different than the way he had written it up, but the same idea of like this assassin.
And he's like, I've been looking for you for so long.
I've been waiting for you for so long. So it really just depends. It depends on who the studio is, what they want to make. Sometimes they specifically say, I want to make that. Like in the case of Quake Champions, it was not just, hey, we want to do something like in the free-to-play first-person space. It was, no, we want to take Quake and bring Quake but make it a first-person free-to-play, but stupid fast, fast-paced esports kind of title. So it really just depends on what's the idea and what's the fit for it. And to be quite honest, we've done a healthy amount of both over the last 5 years. I mean, we did Rage with id. We rebooted Wolf with Machine Games. We did new IP with Arcane. We did new IP with Tango. We did the Elder Scrolls with ZeniMax Online, who took the Elder Scrolls and brought it into this completely different genre than we were used to in online games. It really just depends on what's the right fit.
Gotcha.
Is that a better answer?
That was better
than
that was in our defense. Thank you. You did excellent.
Thank you.
Again.
This was really fun.
No.
Even the second time. Like, it's still...
It's one of the... I mean, honestly, I think this might be longer than the first episode. That's surprising.
It actually is.
Yeah. But I mean, you're one of those guys that I could talk to forever because you're fascinating. You don't bullshit around. You have answers and you know so much. And
thank you for having me on.
Oh my God. Thank you for coming back.
This was a lot of fun.
Like, I texted you last night. I'm like, this is the worst text I've had to send since Kind of Funny started. Like,
it's fine. It happens.
I know. Yeah, I know. We always knew one day the sky would fall on that. It's just... Of course, it's got to fall when we have an awesome episode with a guest, other than when we're just sitting around.
Well, I hope this one was at least
this one was
okay.
Good. Kevin, was this one? It was better? Oh, wow. Because no Tim, right?
Well, I was going to say Colin, but sure. Yeah,
you say that, though, he's going to come stab you.
Whatever. Come at me, Colin.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the second ever episode 106 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Remember, you can get it early on Patreon, do all that jazz. Follow him on Twitter. He'll tweet back at you unless you've been muted. And if he doesn't tweet back, you probably got muted. And then until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.